This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with my daily wrestling and combat sports news update. And there's actually a lot of news for a Sunday, which is usually a slow news day. Alberto Del Rio's ex-girlfriend has retracted her statements regarding him allegedly beating and sexually assaulting her. According to multiple sources, she offered an apology to his family, and it's very likely that this is going to put an end to the case against him, where he could have gone to jail for a very long time. Who knows in these type of situations whether under-the-table payoffs take place or not. Obviously, if you're a rich person, you can make stuff go away, but maybe she's just decided to retract her statements, and who knows if the prosecution is still going to try and bring the trial forward without her, based on just the pictures that were provided. But for now, she wrote on her social media that she apologizes to Rodriguez Del Rio's family for the damages caused by her errors. And if you remember, a few weeks ago, Paige had also came out with a statement saying that she was also abused by Del Rio, and Del Rio responded to that by saying Paige was the one that abused him. So who knows? Braun Strowman, I guess, has a knee injury. That's why they're doing the suspension angle with him. Some people were speculating it was because he posted that the picture with the syringe on his bathroom counter, but no, it's his knee injury. And SmackDown was down 10% this week. Why am I not surprised? Kevin Owens was in the headline match. He's one thing's for sure about him: he'll always bring the ratings down. The Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. fight was a big hit as far as making mainstream media. According to Dave Meltzer, it did 12 million Google searches. And there was no card in a very long time that has had numbers this high. The numbers were bigger than all of Conor McGregor's UFC fights, bigger than Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holmes. And you could combine multiple WrestleManias, and it wouldn't have been as searched as this Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones fight was, which, of course, went the 8 rounds distance, ended in a draw. I've only seen highlights of the fight. People were criticizing Roy Jones for holding Mike Tyson. I mean, it's a fight. You got to protect yourself from being knocked out. It's not always about entertaining the fans. As it was an exhibition, it is under different rules. So they said even before it happened, there would not be a winner declared. They did say that. And as far as the pay, they both reportedly made about $10 million for the fight, according to this week's Wrestling Observer. Mike Tyson did say after the fight that he did kind of say in his post-fight interview, which I watched, that he's doing this for charity, but I'm not sure if it was actually for charity or not. Someone could maybe correct me on that. And Mike, of course, said he did fight again. He would fight again. It's unknown whether Roy Jones Jr. is going to want a rematch, but they hinted at it in the post-fight interview that it would be something that Mike would want. I listened to Chael Sonnen's breakdown of it, and he liked the fight, and he liked the card overall. Other than the music, apparently there was a lot of music on the pay-per-view, which dragged it out, and it wasn't even advertised as having this music in between each fight. So it actually made the pay-per-view go on longer than it would have had there not been all these musical performances. Jake Paul also knocked out ex-NBA guard Nate Robinson in the second round of their fight. And I did watch that knockout. It was on Twitter. I saw it. I am on Twitter, by the way, at Devon Hannibal. And we also have the Hannibal TV Twitter and an Instagram at the Hannibal TV, by the way. But yeah, Jake Paul had an impressive performance. So he's 1-0 in amateur fights now and 2-0 in pro fights. People like to criticize Jake Paul. I don't. I respect his YouTube success. And people that want to say, well, the guy he fought isn't a real boxer. He was an NBA guard. But I'm sure he trained for this fight. It's still a fight. Everyone has a puncher's chance. And, I mean, if you look at CM Punk's second UFC fight, that guy wasn't a real fighter either. He was 0-1 as well, and he hasn't fought since that second fight where he beat CM Punk. So CM Punk was given tomato cans too, but the tomato can beat CM Punk. And if you look at Jake Hager's last two fights, I mean, he had to knee the guy in the groin 3 times in his second last fight, and it was ruled a draw. And that guy was supposedly someone that he was supposed to beat. And then many people believe Jake should have lost his last fight that he had in Bellator against another unknown that he couldn't finish. And definitely Jake looked the worse for wear after that fight. So at least Jake Paul, and I was talking about Jake Hagar just now for his Bellator fights, at least Jake Paul is finishing off his opponents, and he's a massive pay-per-view draw. Kevin Nash is going to be starring in a movie called COVID-19 Invasion. That's going to be recorded in Longview, Texas. And speaking of Texas, Brent McKenzie from SWE Fury, who I interviewed earlier this week on Tuesday, his nickname is Super Tex because I guess he beat up some guy in a backstage fight that was known as Super Mex. But Brent McKenzie announced today that he has COVID-19. Bill Anderson, who I've done several interviews with on this channel, one of Ultimate Warrior's trainers, friends with superstar Billy Graham, he is overcoming COVID-19 right now. There's better medicines now to treat it than there were, of course, when it first came out. Plus the vaccine's coming out next month in the US, so that's good. I don't know when it's coming out in Canada. We're still behind here. Sad news about former Ring of Honor and Impact star Jimmy Rave. I guess had his left arm amputated due to an infection. So now he's saying he's retired. So I'm sorry to hear that. Don't know him well, not too familiar with his career, but I've certainly heard the name. Charles says he loves my content. To get into the fan comments, that's the main news of today.